Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in. I want to share another case study today. This came from a question from a previous participant of the language of the body. The language of the body is a 60-hour training for yoga teachers for a more therapeutic and trauma-informed approach to teaching yoga. And she was asking about working with people with addictions, as she has somebody in class at the moment wanting to support or find support in his recovery process. It's an area that we already touched on in that training, so the question was whether I might expand on it or share my views on it or my experience on it. So the question was related to working with yoga. I'm going to, as per usual, mix yoga, bodywork, body-mind practices. I think for the purpose of this, might actually just sort of look at all of that as one and the same thing. And so that's one. And I want to add that addiction is not my speciality, for sure. And I have worked with a couple of people where addictive behaviors were part of their story, but wasn't necessarily like the main issue. The way I look at it is that the majority of addictions are a result of unprocessed trauma. So the majority of people who are struggling with addiction, of any form of addiction, whatever that might be, have very likely experienced childhood adversity or some form of trauma, usually in younger age. In a very simplified way, you might want to think about that addiction really being the only way to escape the pain of that trauma still being in their body, the pain that they feel when they, well, probably most of the time, it's their only way to cope with the intensity of that sensation, of that pain, of that story, of whatever has happened. Most addictions lead to some form of numbing of sensation and of that pain ultimately. So it is at that moment in time for the body, quite literally, the only way to cope and to manage. So therefore, generally speaking, we would approach that very much in a trauma-informed way, supporting people who are going through a recovery process. It's really great to see that there are already a number of programs out there where yoga or other body-mind practices or something like bodywork or meditation or mindfulness are included as a supplement in a way, supporting people through whatever program it is that they might be going through, maybe the classic 12 steps or whatever kind of format the program might take. And more body-mind practices are beginning to be included and integrated in the support framework of that. So that's a great development. And so I could maybe speak a little bit as to, kind of why and how body-mind practices might be able to make a difference in some cases. So one of the baseline things about body-mind practices is that they regulate the nervous system, they'll regulate stress hormones, they'll regulate neurotransmitters in the brain. So that will support with the struggle, considering that kind of trauma in a way means being stuck in a dysregulated place in the nervous system, or it's certainly part of it, regulating the nervous system, reducing the stress levels bringing people more into relaxation response. All of that will support the process and will help for people to feel more comfortable with whatever sensations are present in the body that they were struggling to be with initially. Something about yoga or anything that involves maybe a level of intensity of something like, stronger stretches or building strength or holding poses for a longer time or, anything like that, that kind of puts a level of intensity into the body, an intense sensation, maybe even a small level of discomfort, known as kind of like a strong stretch, for example. That actually helps the person to be with an intensity in their body, which normally is what they are struggling with and why they might be leaning towards certain substances. But to actually be with that intensity or that level of discomfort in their body, as they're also learning that is not permanent. They do a stretch or a pose 5 times or for 20 seconds and you're coming back out of it again. And so we're teaching the body to be with a certain level of intensity or discomfort or something going on, and to be okay with that sensation, to feel safe with that sensation, and knowing that actually, there is a choice to stop at any time, that you actually have control over that, but also that it does have an end and it's not going to be forever at all. You're not going to be stuck. You will have a way out, which was very often kind of part of the root of the trauma in the first place, that there wasn't a way to escape it, to get out of it. There was no escape. And so the nature of body mind practices like yoga and also Thai massage, where we have some stretches going on and all of that, where we have sort of certain moments or maybe a slightly deeper pressure here and there, whatever it might be, there can be a level of intensity, but we're teaching the body to be with that in a different way and to understand that it will also be over. So we're changing that whole felt experience of intensity, and we're teaching the body to be with that rather than immediately going for the escape of using certain substances. So that's another aspect. Not going in order of priority. There's just different factors that come to mind when thinking about that question, wanting to talk to it. As I already mentioned, most likely there is a trauma at the root of this. So I would also very much take care of creating a very safe space, which to me is really like the baseline of all the work that we do. It's kind of like, regardless of what we know about the person who might be coming to the class or to a session with us, I think that is actually should just be a given. But we might want to really make sure that we foster agency, that we, really offer lots of choices and equal choices, that we really take care of our language, that we choose our language wisely, and that is trauma informed. So we are not re-triggering people who come to class. And I think in my mind that should just be a given anyway in every class, because we don't know what kind of stories people will come with. Everybody has stories, right? And it's not written on their forehead all the time. So for me, that should be a baseline. But if we know that we are creating a class, for example, or we're working with people who are struggling with stuff, then we want to take extra care and create that really safe space. Addicts also very likely, not categorically, but very likely will struggle more with moments of stillness and being still for a longer period of time. So there is a kind of need to balance the level of verbal guidance throughout, so it doesn't get too much either, that you are speaking in a compassionate and calm voice, but also that you're not leaving them hanging too much in moments of stillness. That maybe there is a little bit more flow, or maybe that when there are positions where we are holding them still, you're also giving options to keep moving through those. So you don't have to stay static in a particular pose. You could also have the option to go in and out, or up or down, or around, whatever, to keep adding micro movement, to find their way, to be comfortable in the pose or the sequence, whatever you're offering. But generally speaking, it can be quite a nice idea to make sure there's always a certain flow to it, that you're guiding through the whole class and not leaving people hanging in that stillness where people might get uncertain about what's actually happening, and might become uncomfortable with that level of intensity, with being with their thoughts that have been troubling them. I recently actually coincidentally read an article about, it was yoga yoga being integrated in a program, recovery program, and somebody was saying that during the yoga for that 1 hour, she would be able to relax with her thoughts. So I thought that was really powerful. That clearly that was a yoga practice that was creating that space for her to be comfortable enough with all of the stuff that normally really bothers her and triggers her to use. So that was really great. That was really great to hear. I think that would probably be one of the best outcomes you could have. Also, I guess one of the reasons I would think that Thai massage would be a really great modality too, because unlike certain massages where it's all sort of a bit quiet and calm and like kind of relaxing and all of that, in Thai massage you've got quite a bit of action going on. You've got stretches, you've got twists, you've got movements, you've got rocking, you've got a bit of a sequence. You could get quite acrobatic if you want. So and you have moments of stillness, but they're kind of sort of in this overall sequence of quite a lot of stuff going on, which people might find quite helpful as a way towards finding themselves more comfortable with stillness eventually. So I think Thai massage in that respect would lend itself really quite nicely. As a symptom of trauma, and also obviously people who are struggling with addiction, there's a real dissociation with their body. So addicts are addicts to escape their bodies, to be outside their body, because being in their body is just not feeling okay. It's so uncomfortable. It's too painful. And so with body mind practices, as well as with Thai massage, especially with Thai massage, I think compared again to maybe some other body work or massages, let's say. I'm not saying other massages are not great, just in this context. I think there's something about Thai massage, but because we work the whole of the body, because we work with movement, because we have stretches, we're really re-establishing connection with the whole body. We get them to feel their body, not only through touch, but also through movement, through twists, through rocking, through the pressure, through the fact that we're working in these different positions on their front, on their side, on the back, seated, we are trying to make sure that we get to every part of the body. So we're really fostering interoception here and proprioception massively, and so is yoga or any other body mind practice. It's really in its nature, right, that we are re-establishing connection with our own body, and that could be making a huge contribution towards the kind of healing process, to help people come back into the body that they have effectively been really trying to escape throughout their addiction. And all of that, if you're able to support somebody to find themselves comfortable enough to relax with all of their thoughts, that is so empowering, because eventually you might, or they might find themselves comfortable enough even while they're not in a yoga class or receiving that treatment, and we are able to really foster resilience and empowerment in people that way. So I started off saying this. So I would look at a yoga, body mind practices, bodywork as a great support whilst people might be going through their program, and that is a given. They need to be doing that work of recovery, for sure. And it might also be a really great support in supporting them for the aftercare, since there is a relatively high rate of relapse, and it could be really helping to prevent that. The fact that we are continuously, I'm going to go over those points again, regulating the nervous system, regulating the stress hormones, regulating neurotransmitters, that we are re-establishing a connection with the body, fostering the ability to be comfortable with maybe more intense sensations in the body, to be comfortable to be with the thoughts, to know that they feel safe, that there are options, that there are choices, they can move or they can stay still, and to have resiliency tools available to them as well, resourcing tools that they can use anytime when they might start to struggle. And to be empowered after as well, throughout, and have that support. So I think that is when it comes really into play even more, in the aftercare, in the kind of and supporting somebody through life. And addiction or no addiction, like I also already said, we all have our stories, and that is how I would very often define what I do. Is just offering the support for people to, and for people to walk through life and through all of the ups and downs, and to have something to lean on when it's difficult, but also maybe when they're feeling well, and to keep nourishing the body, to keep reminding the body of all of the health and its potential and its potency. And so with anything that is an ongoing struggle, even more so, I think there's a real potential and power in these practices. Something else to possibly consider: quite often people who have dealt with more severe addictions, quite often after quitting drugs or whatever it might have been, they might have to deal with quite a bit of pain, other pain in their body. It could be that they develop quite strong back pain or other things. And so obviously we know that our body mind practices, as well as Thai massage, yoga, all of those things, I keep listing them, could really be helpful in that respect too, to help with the kind of, again, all of the traces that are left behind in the body, including potentially, quite a bit of discomfort and pain. The other thing, kind of a little bit aside from the sort of more biological aspect, is also that these body mind practices and the yoga philosophy and those Eastern teachings and ancient practices always have a huge foundation of empathy and loving kindness in their teachings. And so this means that turning to these practices, could potentially offer a moment of being seen, of being heard, of being met without judgment, because that is at the root of these teachings, and that can be so powerful, because maybe part of the trauma was that was missing. And in fact, quite likely that was missing, and it's a huge part of what happened. So coming into an environment where the whole philosophy, the whole teaching is of that loving kindness and compassion, but also be very healing, and also reminding them of, of the power of that, but also reminding them of self-love and kindness to yourself, and showing compassion for yourself. So I think that's also quite a huge component, and it will be a huge component again also in the long term. This is really about long-term practice and long-term support, and helping people to prevent a relapse. So I don't know, those are some thoughts from my side of what might play into it working with addicts. I recall also an incident where somebody came to a treatment, and it was booked quite far in advance, but was already showing some kind of different behavior that could give me some clues of slight erraticness in the process. Also the person, there was a muddle up over the time of it. The person showed up quite late, but really was desperate to have that session, and was very openly sharing his consumption of drugs and alcohol, and was also very open in sharing that he felt very traumatized, and that he was really he was really searching for that something. And it just then so happened that, and I don't know whether that was, planned, intentional, or it just sort of happened, or, whatever the circumstances were at the time, but he then also shared that he had just literally the 2 nights before been on a huge bender and has been out and consuming, and he was with a girl and was out partying, and so he was really just kind of coming out of sobering up, and it wasn't in a really particularly good place to really have a treatment, and really needed a different kind of support that he was obviously looking for. So something that is also really important, that if we start to work in this way, we are obviously also people are going to find you. The more therapeutically you work, the more people will come with all sorts of conditions and stories. That's kind of law of attraction. And so it is really important to be really well networked, to be able to tell all of the signs, to be able to manage that situation, hold boundaries, but also to actually say that, I'm not the right person to support you in this very moment, in this situation right now. And to be able to refer somebody out, because quite often we are not the right person to help somebody, potentially, just as much as somebody else might not be the right person to help somebody else, and they might refer them back to you. And that is a really hugely important aspect of doing this work. And if you know that somebody is struggling with addiction, is coming to your class and has shared that with you, to also have that conversation, so coming means being sober, someone to, come into class means being sober at that time, and to also maybe already have a list of different resources available, but also of different people who might be able to support that person much better at that time, to check that they have a therapist to check in with, and that they have that support network and so on. But to be yourself also, because maybe they don't, as in the case of this young man who came for a treatment with me, to be able to refer somebody out to somebody who will be much better placed to work with that person. So yeah, that's really important, so that you can manage that kind of situation safely and well for everyone, and not making it worse in that situation. So yeah, that would probably be the last sort of piece there, and that speaks to, I've spoken about this before, that goes into the conversation of integrative care. That's part of creating a safe space for people to open up enough about their stories and so on, but that you're able to refer out, and that is just so much more powerful than thinking that you could be helping them in that moment. I don't know. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. If you have any additional questions on that, please let me know, post in the comments below. And as I said, the plan is to do a few more of these case studies. I've got a few kind of particular conditions in mind, people I've worked with, and if you have any particular questions, like I've once worked with this, or I am currently working with somebody who has X, Y, and Z, and you have any questions about that and wondered what my thoughts would be or how I might approach it, and I might not have any ideas. That's all fine. But I'm very happy to see what your questions are, and see if there's anything that you want me to talk about. Then let me know. You know how to reach me. You can also post below this video. So yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your weekend if you're watching this live. And I'll see you soon. Take care of yourself. Bye for now.